Right, Marc Guehi, very similar situation, it feels like. All laser focus, all in on Guehi, much in the same way we are of Isak right now. Being brief, being reported, there is no alternative option. What's the latest on him? Because it felt like at one point last week we were on the brink of getting him and then not so much. And yeah, has there been any movement in the past few days?
No, it's an interesting one, this, because there are several parties with almost different ideas of what they want to happen. So, Steve Parish has made it clear that they will listen to offers. They are not a club who can basically lose club captains and top centre halves for nothing. So they're looking to maybe get a fee for him this year. But I think the feeling is that they're probably asking for a little bit too much at the moment, certainly from the Liverpool end, given the contract status. Liverpool know that he wants to join, so they can get him next year for nothing, essentially. So they're almost thinking, well, we're not going to pay 40 million for him now because we've just signed Leone. We've already got Canate and Van Dijk. Gomez, Endo can play there. Gravenberg had a push. So I think Liverpool are quite relaxed about the situation. Ideally, I'd like to see them bring him in this summer. So that's just, eradicates any sort of question marks over lack of depth at centre-back for me. I think he would be able to challenge Canate for a starting place, even though he's traditionally plays in Virgil's place on the left of that back two, doesn't he? But yeah, it's no real movement. I think it's a sort of game of high stakes chicken at the moment, where Liverpool are backing themselves to the point where they think Palace will have to blink and bring that asking price down. But I think Oliver Glasner wants to keep him. I think he very much sees this as a season to build on winning the FA Cup. They're in Europe. I think he's already confirmed that Guehi and Eze are going to start tonight in Europa Conference League. So yeah, like I say, different people have got different views on this, and I think eventually for Guehi to get his move to Liverpool this year will involve sort of meeting in the middle between those two prices that Liverpool have made it clear they're prepared to pay and what Palace are asking for.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a fascinating one as well, because that's been the case for quite some time now, it feels like. And you mentioned obviously Eze there. Now that's moved on a pace overnight in terms of where he's heading to, and he may well not be involved in that game as you mentioned, but I think it was somewhat confirmed yesterday afternoon. But then again, last night's involvements might have shifted the land there somewhat. It's a real concern to me, much in the same way it is in terms of what Liverpool are doing in the attacking department. It's mad how we've gone from constantly speaking about midfielders 12 months ago to not even sort of having a second thought about them. But yeah, it's a real concern to me, Liverpool's defensive situation right now, not because of the fact they're not playing very well. But you mentioned obviously Virgil and Ibu there. Ibu started indifferently, and there's obviously a huge contract cloud hanging over his head. Joe Gomez, I thought he looked okay even when he came on for his worth, but we know where the issues lie there. Leone, clearly a very bright prospect, but never kicked the ball in the Premier League. 17 Serie A appearances, great. Beyond that, you mentioned Endo and Gravenberg. Obviously, there's Amara Nallo and Welty, lucky maybe for cup games, but I just think we are running the risk really back there, really do. And I can't shy away from that. And I think when somebody is as seemingly as gettable as Marc Guehi, it's not nowhere near as complicated as the Isak situation. Like, it feels relatively straightforward.
Yeah, and I think that's what Liverpool are sort of banking on, really. I think they feel relaxed enough to maybe get to later in the window and then say to Palace, 30 million still on the table there, what you say? And then if not, they'll get him next summer for nothing, and he will arrive, 25, turning 26, so theoretically, as best he is, it will still be ahead of him. So, I think Liverpool a bit more relaxed on that one than maybe up top, where the options are very few and far between now in terms of Isak alternatives, and the door looks as though it's closing slowly. But yeah, I mean, I think Liverpool will feel that they're well stocked enough to go into the season. I totally agree with you in terms of, if Canate gets injured at Newcastle and Leone has to start a centre-back against... if Canate gets injured against Newcastle and is Leone going to start against Arsenal, it's a big ask of a 19-year-old, isn't it, new to the league, who will have only been training with his teammates for 2 weeks or whatever. Gomez, they were his first minutes in the Premier League since December on Friday night. He played at right back. I agree with you. I thought he looked okay, assured. The issues sort of went away, didn't he, when he come on? But yeah, I mean, I just think Liverpool are just playing that waiting game that they have done all season, really, with Marc Guehi. You know, I was told that there was no agreement on personal terms, which is usually the way it works. You know, I think it's become accepted that transfers work in reverse now, where you speak to the player first and you establish their willingness to come, and then you make the move to the club. But I think they've established that he'd like to join, but there's been no discussions on personal terms as we're aware at the moment. So don't foresee any issues on that front if it does get that far. But I guess it's just Liverpool just running the clock down and just waiting to see if Palace eventually blink and they're forced to maybe reduce that asking price by 5 or 10 million.
Yeah, most definitely. One of the Discord members asked early on this morning, if we don't move for the obvious links, i.e. Isak and Guehi, are there any other irons in the fire, or is alive in the club? We're happy to go with what we've got. And what we've discussed for the first 20 odd minutes here feels like actually alarmingly in both departments we're quite happy to go with what we've got. Yeah,
I think that's definitely true. Certainly with Marc Guehi, I think if Liverpool don't get him, they're happy to wait 12 months and get him on a free next summer. And with Isak, yeah, I mean, I think that the big one now is you're not seeing anyone linked. You're not even seeing any sort of left field links. Maybe there was Bradley Barcola a couple of weeks ago. That sort of come and went as quickly as it sort of got reported, didn't it? So yeah, it does feel as though these are sort of plan A's, and like I've sort of referenced Isak liking it to Van Dijk, in that it's him or no one. It does feel at the moment like that is the case, and if they don't get him in this window and they feel that maybe they can wait it out till January at the earliest, it's a big roll of the dice, isn't it? You're hoping that Ekitike continues in this form, stays injury free, but then who do you play in the cup games? Because you're going to have to rotate. You can play Ngamoa, you can play Chiesa, but then who plays up front? You don't want to be playing Florian Wirtz there too often.
We're back at Jadon Downs, aren't we?
Yeah, there we go. So that would feel like quite a dramatic drop in terms of depth of quality compared to what Liverpool had this time last year. And we know, it feels a bit crass even talking about it in these terms, but we know Diogo is not here with us anymore. But those decisions to move Núñez and Diaz on have been done with the idea of getting in at least one replacement, and so far they're not in the door. So work to be done, I think.
That was a clip from JNO Insight. To check out the whole show, head to redmenplus.com or click the link in the description.